Sure. I am not what you might expect as a person in this work in the ocean. I come from the prairies in the middle of Canada. My degrees are in biology and geomorphology, and I spent over a decade working as a professional geologist in British Columbia and all around British Columbia. I specialized in large-scale mapping and ecosystem scale mapping projects, and then watershed restoration projects. And then I started getting really focused into restoration projects. And I worked for about 5 years on Haida Gwaii from 1998 to 2003 for about 6 to 8 months of the year. And we spent millions of dollars restoring salmon streams and forest watersheds and that sort of thing. And after 4 years or so, and no fish were really coming back. And so I asked the obvious question to my friends at the Department of Fisheries and Oceans. I said, well, where are the fish? It should seem, we're doing all this work, we're spending, where's the fish? And they said, well, the ocean conditions and, sometimes, there's a bunch of predators. And I said, well, it's okay to say if you don't know. Because it really is what occurred to me is that they didn't know. Mm-hmm. They don't know where baby salmon go once they leave the river. They don't know if they leave the river, if the baby salmon go left or they go right. It's really unknown. So that's, again, how I started really focusing in on, okay, if we don't have this basic information, how can we make reasonable decisions on, say, commercial fishing quotas? Or what happens to these babies at sea? Where do they go? And so how did I get really involved? Well, I got really involved with, first of all, through this watershed restoration work and working with the Haida people and getting to know them. And then secondly, we were looking for a way that this watershed restoration work was drying up. Of course, and this is another sort of where I'm going to go is that ecosystem restoration work is not profitable work. It's all tax paid for by the taxpayer. There is no business model out there right now that says, oh, you can go out and restore some part of the environment and make a profit. Mm. Now, you would think that as part of capitalism, we would have figured a way out to how to do that by now. But we don't. The only path to profit that I'm aware of, and I challenged you this last week, Monique, or Monica rather, is that if you could come up with a way that you could make a profit and not cause an environmental net negative effect. I've always wondered why should there not be a profitable way to restore and enhance environments that humanity needs to exist, but there isn't any. The only one that I've seen so far is this carbon market idea, whereby you plant a tree, you prove that you planted the tree, or you restore a patch of ocean, you prove that you restored that patch of ocean, and you find a way to market and sell that. Right. That's maybe not a bad way, but I honestly am not 100% sure yet. So, you were asking how I got into this whole thing.
Yes.
And I'm sorry. So, in about 2007, all the money had run out to do the watershed restoration work, and the government of British Columbia had an offshore oil and gas commission. They were going to drill the Hecate Strait, which is the stretch of water between Haida Gwaii and the mainland. Mm-hmm. And that, it wasn't long after they announced that was going to happen that some guy from an oil and gas company, I'm not going to name the company, stopped by the old massive band and said, hey, if you got any carbon offsets, I'll buy them all. And our heads started spinning. We said, what's a carbon credit? How do we make one? And eventually, around 2007, we were introduced to Russ George. And Russ told me about ocean iron fertilization and how it works. Well, I don't take anybody's word for anything, so I did all the research, and the research is very clear. Ever since John Martin started doing the experiments and determined that iron was the missing ingredient in the deep open ocean, it's very clear that every time iron goes into the ocean, that we have a resulting plankton bloom. And it also really made sense to me with respect to these salmon not coming back, right? If plankton was disappearing, which if you can, there's a ton of papers, and there's some of them on my website, or our website there, that shows that plankton is disappearing. Well, if plankton is disappearing and you have less grass, so to speak, you have less cows, or fish, salmon in this case, right? If you have no grass in your pasture, you can't have cows. If you have less plankton, you have to have less fish. That's just makes sense. And if you look at the commercial fishing harvest over the last 100 years in British Columbia and Alaska, there's this nice, long, straight, steady downhill slope. Is it because of overfishing? Well, that's what everybody says. It's the usual suspect is overfishing, and then there's the loggers who till out the streams. But what really struck home for us, we had already started down this path and developing the business, was in 2010. This is on the website too, but let's go back a little bit to 2009. The Fraser River, which is the largest sockeye salmon river in British Columbia, they had a run that was catastrophic. It was less than 1 million. They were expecting close to 10 million, and they didn't know what it was. So the federal government called the Judicial Inquiry, called the Cohen Commission. And the Cohen Commission ran from 2009 till the end of 2010. So in 2010, all of the salmon experts in British Columbia, Washington, Alaska were all in Vancouver. They were all hoping for a salmon run to occur. And they didn't just get a salmon run, they got the largest salmon run ever. And not one of them predicted it. Not one of them predicted it. Clearly, they have no idea what happens to the salmon or what causes a large salmon run. So what really occurred is in 2008, 2 years prior to this large salmon run, a volcano blew up in the Aleutian Islands. It dusted the entire Gulf of Alaska with iron-rich dust, causing the largest plankton bloom ever seen from space. Now, they don't have conclusive evidence at this point in time that largest plankton bloom ever observed from space resulted in the largest salmon run ever to the Fraser River. But it makes sense.